millions of China's migrant workers find themselves shunned in old age. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a corner of a job fair on the outskirts of Beijing on an April morning. Like many other job markets that offer short-term jobs across Beijing, it's packed with middle-aged people from various provinces across the country. All of them were important sources of labor for China's major cities in previous decades. However, the majority of elderly migrant workers in China are now abandoned and their lives are given little attention. So why is this injustice happening in the world's second-largest economy? Let's find out the answer with facts about China in today's episode. According to data released by the National Bureau of Statistics of China in April, the country had 300 million migrant workers in 2021, of which those over 50 accounted for 27.3% or about 80 million people. The current elderly migrant workers have been the engine of China's spectacular economic growth over the past 3 decades. Most of them were born in the 1950s and 1960s and went out to work in the 1980s and 1990s when China began reforming and opening up. Despite years of contributions to provinces and cities, these migrant workers are being rejected by the labor market due to stricter recruitment and workplace safety policies. Nowadays, mill workers over the age of 55 are a dwindling group at major construction sites in Beijing. These workers also receive little or no unemployment assistance due to low levels of education, limited skills, and reduced ability to work. China's 3 years of strict pandemic control have severely damaged businesses across the country, leaving thousands of migrant workers unemployed or stranded at home. China began lifting pandemic control measures in early December 2022, but the pace of economic recovery has been slow since the country reopened and the job market remains bleak for migrant workers. In an interview, Mr. Liu, a migrant worker in the suburbs of Beijing, said,
"The pandemic control has been lifted, but the economy is not good. In the Majukiao area, very few companies or people are hiring now."
From there, it can be seen that the lives of middle-aged immigrants are becoming increasingly precarious as businesses still refuse to welcome them. In contrast, at another job fair, it was a fact that while companies wanted to hire more workers, they still could not find enough to meet demand because of salary issues. One middle-aged worker said,
"The salary is low and it has no rest day. It's 3,000 yuan, about more than $410. It is not enough for our living expenses."
Meanwhile, household spending for a family of 3 is at least 50,000 yuan a year, or approximately $7,000 per year. Migrant workers largely hail from rural farming backgrounds. According to the data from the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs in 2021, the average rural household farms around half a hectare. This small scale means farmers are usually unable to benefit from the economies of scale brought about by new technologies, leaving them with little returns. Even though the government has rolled out various tax incentives and subsidies, it is difficult for farmers to make ends meet by farming alone. Moreover, according to statistics collected by Facts About China, the vast majority of rural migrant workers are still employed in low-paid jobs in manufacturing, construction, and an increasingly wide range of service industries. However, after only 1 year, the proportion of migrant workers has shifted markedly. According to data released by the National Bureau of Statistics of China in April, the proportion of migrant workers engaged in the manufacturing and construction sectors was 27.1% and 19% respectively, while the number in the service industry stood at 50.9%. However, with the transformation and upgrading of these industries as well as stricter hiring policies, the ability of these sectors to absorb migrant workers has gradually weakened. On the grounds of workplace safety, several cities such as Shanghai, Tianjin, and Shenzhen have in recent years issued orders to remove elderly migrant workers from the construction industry. For example, in Shanghai, the age limit in the construction industry is set at 60 for men and 50 for women. The growing challenges faced by migrant workers have forced many to flock to the gig economy. As reported by sources, in fact, employers and middle-aged migrant workers rarely sign labor contracts in practice, which means they haven't established formal labor relations. Thus, employers usually won't pay migrant workers social insurance. Although migrant workers can file a lawsuit when their rights and interests are infringed, they often settle out of court because of their weak awareness of rights protection and the high cost of the lawsuit. After decades of drifting from city to city, returning to their hometowns has become the only option for some elderly migrant workers. At present, Only cities with a population of less than 3 million have thoroughly relaxed the requirements for residency. For cities with a population above 3 million, it becomes increasingly tough to meet the requirements for residency the larger the city's population. In megacities such as Beijing, for example, there is a points-based household registration system known as the hukou system. To qualify as a resident, migrant workers need to meet education and financial health requirements, among several conditions. This means many do not qualify. In the city of Zhongshan, in South China's Guangdong, the conditions for settling require a migrant worker to pay for 3 consecutive years of social insurance, have a legal and stable residence, and other conditions. Another problem is that migrant workers are mostly employed informally and are highly mobile, and the proportion of enterprises that pay social insurance for them is low. By the end of June 2020, 63.75 million migrant workers nationwide had participated in employee pensions, accounting for only 22%. Overall, urban dwellers receive higher pensions than their rural counterparts. A survey conducted by the National School of Development at Peking University in 2018, which involved over 15,000 respondents, found that 77% of urban residents were covered in the state-run basic employee pension program, while the proportion of rural residents covered was only 6.3%. Under the program, the median monthly pension payment was 2,500 yuan for retirees from corporations and 4,000 yuan for those from government or government-backed public institutions. More than 82% of surveyed rural residents were covered by the state-run basic resident pension program, which paid a median monthly pension of 100 yuan to people aged over 60, well below the payment in the employee pension program. According to another survey, the majority of migrant workers surveyed pay more attention to meeting their daily living expenses and the expenses of the next generation. Most hold the view that their pension funds are savings from hard work. For migrant workers, moving to the city for work is their way of supporting themselves in old age. In conclusion, elderly migrant workers in China are facing significant challenges in finding employment, receiving fair wages, and accessing social welfare benefits. Despite their significant contributions to China's economic growth, these workers are often overlooked and left with little support. The pandemic has only worsened the situation, leaving many stranded and unemployed. The gig economy has become a common option for these workers, but it comes with its own set of challenges. The hukou system and other residency requirements make it difficult for migrant workers to settle in larger cities, and the lack of social insurance coverage further exacerbates their financial insecurity. It is clear that more needs to be done to support China's elderly migrant workers and ensure that they can live with dignity and security in their later years. Last but not least, in your opinion, in the near future, will the Chinese government come up with policies to support elderly migrant workers? And that's today's video. Don't hesitate to give your opinion in the comments section below. Thank you so much for watching to the end. If you find our video interesting, please give it a big thumbs up and share it with others. Finally, don't forget to turn on our bell and subscribe to our channel, Facts About China, so you don't miss any of our new videos. Thank you for your support, and see you next time.